pictures of orbs. Okay, they don't realize one is they get a little point and shoot digital camera. Think about where the flash is mounted. It's mounted right next to the lens. Now they go outside at night and they have their porch light on and they're taking pictures and they see these orbs. Well, two things that'll cause that orb. One is, the aperture blades on the lens are kind of weird shape. They're not perfectly round. Okay, now you have the flash going off close to the lens. That lens then reflects that light from the flash. And then you're getting basically like the aperture opening is your orb after it's been bounced around in the lens. And that I see a lot of. But again, I don't want to hurt everybody's feelings. So I go, oh, that's a nice picture. But I'm saying 90% of the pictures I get is because either it's dust on the sensor or they're orbs, or because they don't understand how a camera really works. They just know how to take a picture.
I've done some tests too, because I have some legitimate orb pictures. I have actually taken my camera and tested it with the water particles on the lens, and I try to replicate the problem of non-orbs that show up, so that I would eliminate. It's a process of elimination to make sure what I was taking a photograph of was the real thing. And in my case, I had several orbs, but I also had this strange square thing up above the trees that was almost like a strange doorway. It just looked like it was made of light or something like that. But I don't know where it came into play. If it was just an abnormality of the camera,
I wouldn't know without looking at the picture. But yeah, I think there is orbs out there. I seen videos of rods, for example. James, do you know what a rod is?
Yes, I do. And I'll be honest with you, my theory on them, they're either bugs or birds or bats.
But I actually had a friend that was doing orbs and maybe it could be insects, the type that kind of glow or something. But I swear to God, I seen these orbs and I couldn't debunk it.
Oh, you're talking about orbs. I thought you were talking about them flying rods. But
rods. I'm talking about rods. I mean, I couldn't debunk it.
Yeah,
unless it's the case of, if you're doing a movie camera thing, okay, so it only does so many frames per second, and it's moving so fast. Let's say it is a bug or something that's reflecting sunlight off of it, and it's moving quite rapidly, but fast enough where it looks like a series of orbs, like on a string, and moving across the camera. I mean, across the field there. So there's always the possibility of that. And I look very carefully to make sure something like that isn't the issue. I don't want to take pictures personally and send them off to everybody and say, hey, look what I got, and deal with the embarrassment of retracting something and saying, oh, I made a mistake. Now, I'll admit a mistake if I did post something like that. But I've learned my lesson. I got burned a couple of times, and I try to learn from that and try to make sure that if I do post something, that I'm making sure of what I'm posting.
Well, I seen, again, a friend of mine who's no longer here who did a talk show, sent me a couple times video clips back, maybe 6-7 years ago of rods. He had a guest on a show. It was talking about he went out and that's what he would photograph, rods. And he sent my friend, a clip, and then he sent the clip to me. I tell you what, these things were going through people and just going right through them. So I don't think that was an insect. It was rather interesting. Now, that was taken with a high-speed digital camera. So, I mean, it's interesting. I do think there's things out there we don't know what they are. And I think they do show up.
That sounds like you actually caught something there then. I've seen many orbs through my...
I'm not talking orbs. I'm talking rods.
Rods, yeah. Now, though, I've never had much luck of haven't seen many. I have seen some on some documentaries. There was some that was pretty unexplainable, like you're mentioning there, that went through people. Those, that's something. That's a whole new field that needs more research.
I actually have a video of a rod on one of my videos I did that had something like that show up and went straight across the top of the screen, and it looked like a bar, just a big round bar of light that just moved across the field of the image.
That's interesting. And sometimes when I look at that, I still actually have it on one of my computers, not the ones in the studio, but the one on my bedroom is still on there. Mm-hmm. And when I look at it, it kind of reminds me maybe like another dimension or something is being captured. It's just the way, it's not one rod, it's a bunch of them. And they're all going different directions. And like I said, they were going through objects. It's like they weren't there, and that's interesting when you see a rod go through a human and just goes right through it and comes out the other side.
Yeah, that would be kind of a sight to see. I do have caught evidence of something that was similar to that. It was undulating, and it wasn't an orb, but it was kind of like a rod shape. I caught it on film on an investigation about a year and a half ago. I still have that one. That was very, I've never seen nothing like that before. It kind of sounds like what you're describing. It kind of went through things.
Yeah. I don't know. There's just a lot of strange things out there, and that's why, I think like Sam ever so often, captures something he didn't even realize what he captured till, he goes back and reviews, right, your old pictures.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know. It's kind of strange that over time that either my perception has picked up more, and I'll go back and look at some old pictures or older pictures and then actually look very carefully. And this isn't just a case of pixelation or pareidoia or anything like that. This is where you're taking a look. You can see full details of perhaps something that looks like a humanoid, but only about a few inches tall. And of course, I'm referring to little people. And this one I just sent to you today, I actually found that earlier this morning. The guy had a white headband on. You could even see the pupils in his eyes on that picture. And what was interesting was was holding some kind of square device that had looked maybe a round lens, a dark lens in the middle of it. And that's not the first time I've seen that out there. So that makes about the fourth time I caught these entities, these small entities, holding something like that. So I think they have access to technology. And if you want to throw this one out too, I think possibly, and we said this before, they could possibly be ETs as well.
It's possible. I mean, do all ETs have to be 4 foot tall or 6 foot tall? I mean, depending on where they come from, the size of their world, there's the magnetic field, whatever, it's all going to, the oxygen content, all that is going to have a play, how big they're going to turn out. People who deny that giants exist, I disagree with them, because if you go back several thousand years ago, our oxygen content was completely different than it is today.
True. It was much denser. Much denser.
Yeah, that's why we had dinosaurs and stuff like that, because they could grow bigger. Now, our oxygen level is really not, if you brought one of those creatures back in time to our time, they would die because they couldn't get enough. Yeah, they'd suffocate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, our oxygen level today is only 18-20%, if that, somewhere around there. So, and those big dinosaurs, some of them had lungs the size of your living room. I mean, how the hell could they survive?
But that's what I'm saying, that these ETs, I hear these people say, oh, they're about 4 feet tall. You can't say how tall they are because we don't know. So, I mean, they could be 20 feet, 30 feet tall, or they could be 2 inches tall, depending where they originally came from.
True. Yeah, it's amazing. And we talked about preconceived notions that we're raised in. I mean, you got to throw a lot of those out the window because, all bets are off about size. It could be something very micro size, or it could be something huge. I mean, there's evidence of that, like you said. I've seen pictures of giants. I know there's giant skeletons that have been found. There's old newspaper clippings about finding those things. But all that stuff was conveniently swept away by whoever so that the general populace would never know that existed.
Well, the same way, like when Mary Joyce was on back in Cashiers, North Carolina, that they found, when they were building back a few years ago or 10 years ago, they were building a community college, and all of a sudden they ran across skeletons of humanoids, and they were about 6 inches tall. Well,
wow.
they were found, right? The college got it, and then all of a sudden some other place came and got it, and that was the end of it. It actually even made the newspaper, the pictures. What happened to them? Well, they go somewhere, in a basement, because we don't supposed to know about it, because it'll change how we originated. And that'll throw a monkey wrench into it. So they don't want that. That's why they debunk anything about miniature, little people or giants.
Absolutely. And the fact is that our history has not really been taught to us. I don't think we have the truth about the history of our own origins. I think it's a well-guarded secret. And anything that debunks the narrative, they hide it, And it's just like Dr. Stephen Greer had that video out some time ago that shows an autopsy of this little 6-inch mummified being. And it was about the size of one of those little people that I've been seeing. So I don't know if necessarily if it was E.T. or maybe they are here for a long time. Maybe they've been here a long time and just are hidden away in deep, remote, rural parts of the forest, such as where I'm talking to you from. So it's interesting.
Well, but in your situation, and I'm going to, because since we got a round table, we can just throw this back and forth. You talk about portals and all that. And then when you mention portals, I think going through other dimensions, going through time, going through space, then I start thinking ETs. And again, it all comes down to what size of planet they came from, the atmosphere of the planet, the oxygen content, or even if they breathed oxygen or a mixture of something else in oxygen, would determine the size of them, especially the magnetic field also, besides the oxygen, would determine how size they would be. So if you have a planet, it's like 1/16 of the size of Earth, and it had all the life, things in there to create life, then they're not going to have people there going 6 foot tall or 7 foot tall or 5'11" or 5'7". They're going to be adjusted to the size of the planet that they originated from.
That's the flexibility of the DNA, our DNA, or the DNA of animals, or the DNA of anything. It adjusts to the environment, and over several generations, you will find that adaptations. I think one thing I think about is, like, humans normally don't have hair on them, but you get some humans that live out in the wild and are feral humans, I guess, for several generations. They found wild people out there, and they start growing hair all over their bodies.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's amazing when you think about how adaptable we really can be. And the reason we don't have hair on our bodies like that, because we continue to live under these artificial constructs of what we call so-called civilization or society.
You're right. Hey, we're going to have to go on break here in about 30 seconds. I will say this. People who didn't go to war in Vietnam and they ran out in the woods and they lived 20, 30 years as a hermit out in the woods, you know what? For living out there for 20, 30 years, their hair, from what I have read and seen pictures of, they were classified a hairy man because of the coldness and being out and in the elements. Their body produced hair all over them, big time. Anyway, we'll be back in 2.5 minutes. We have Sam, we got James, you got me, Gary, and I'm going to again play my new song from Metatron, Power and Light. They wrote a song specially for the show. Tom and all you guys in the band, I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot that you took the time, energy, and the love for me and my show to do it. Anyway, we'll be back in 2.5 minutes.
You thirst